Welcome. My name is Nicole Carey, and I'm a senior HR consultant with the HR Advantage. I've spent over 15 years helping employers across many industries, including construction, agriculture, nonprofits, municipalities, you name it. My work is all about tackling the people side of the business, and it's the part that can feel very complicated or messy, but it's always important. That means I often step in to help with policies, pay structure, leader support, or even just making sure that teams feel valued and respected in the workplace. My approach is practical and down to earth. There's no corporate jargon or fluff. And today we're here to talk about the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. This is a day of reflection and learning, but it's also a day that comes with some real questions for employers. Like, how do we approach time off? What policy should be in place? How can we make sure our practices are showing respect and support, but also keeping our workplaces running smoothly? So that's what we'll be diving in together. All right, so as I mentioned, I work with the HR Advantage. We're a team that handles HR, health and safety, payroll, and compliance, and so much more so that business owners can focus on running the show. We like to get to know our clients really well. It's something that we really pride ourselves on. We don't like to just send you templates or talk you through legal speak. We like to really work collaboratively with our clients so that they can get real results. Our mission is quite simple. We take HR and compliance off your plate and handle it in a way that's proactive, not reactive, so that there's no surprises and no scrambling. So let's talk a little bit about the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. That's the key topic of our presentation today. So every year on September 30th, we are reminded of a part of Canadian history that many of us didn't grow up learning about. The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation isn't just another day off, but it's a chance for employers and for teams and for citizens of Canada to pause, reflect, and recognize the lasting impacts of the residential school system. For employers in Alberta, this can feel a little bit like unfamiliar territory, but this guide will help you design a plan that is clear and simple and really get to know what the day is about, what the rules are in Alberta, and how employers might approach it in a respectful and meaningful way. So September 30th was formally recognized by the federal government back in 2021 following the discovery of unmarked graves at former residential schools across Canada. It's something that reaffirmed the long known stories that have been shared by survivors. And the day was created in direct response to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, TRC, which gathered stories from over 6,500 Indigenous survivors and families. The TRC released 94 calls to action back in 2015, which included specific steps organizations and citizens could take to work towards reconciliation. So the call to action number 80 is the recommendation of the creation of a statutory holiday in order to honor survivors, families, and communities affected by residential schools across the country. The purpose of this day is to give everyone a chance to reflect, learn, and move forward with respect. It's not about politics. It's not about where you stand on either side of the spectrum. It's all about the people. All right, so what are the rules in Alberta for National Day of Truth and Reconciliation? Here's the rundown. The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is not a mandatory general holiday in Alberta. It is a holiday for federally regulated industries like banks, railways, airlines, and federal government. So for anyone in the private sector in Alberta, you are not required to provide the day off. If you choose to give employees the day off in Alberta, it must be handled like any other company designated holiday. And if you give the day off, it must be paid like any other general holiday in Alberta according to Alberta employment standards. So employers can often handle it by adding it to their list of paid company holidays, like your stat holiday listing, general holiday listing. You could host a learning opportunity or a morning reflection session. You could close early to observe it as well. So why should you consider observing it? And I think this is a kind of an important question because it's not meant to just be a day off. It's a chance to show leadership, to show respect, and to really show those community values. So here's what it could signal if you choose to observe it. So again, it's respect for the Indigenous workers that may or may not work for you, the communities that we live in. And it's a clear message for those partners, clients, customers, those workers that work with you that you value and respect their cultural heritage. There's also a value in reinforcing commitment to doing the right thing, even when it's not required or legally mandated. It can help build trust in the community among younger workers, especially who value social responsibility on the corporate side. So it can help enhance your reputation. And then employees notice when employers make meaningful decisions, especially ones tied to real world issues and issues sort of in our own backyard. So that can help with retention as well. So even if you decide not to take a full day off, I think taking some kind of action really matters. So there are different ways to, like very impactful ways to recognize the day and to show that your business values reconciliation. So one thing you can do is just acknowledge the day publicly, whether it's in an email or in your morning huddle. It can really go a long way and can show that educating your team is the best way to show appreciation to our own sort of collective past histories. You can host a toolbox talk or reflection huddle. So take 10 to 15 minutes to talk about what the day really means and why it matters, especially to people on your team. You can really encourage Orange Shirt Day participation. So you can provide orange shirts or invite your crew to wear them. The orange shirt has really become a symbol that every child matters, and it's a visual reminder of the children taken from families in their communities in such an impactful way. You can share educational resources like a short video or an article that can kind of spark valuable conversation. You can attend local events. So I always encourage people to take part in those community ceremonies or events, especially if it's held before or after work hours and there's really no excuse not to. So these are typically hosted by municipalities and can happen at any time. It doesn't have to be on the 30th of September. Stay in the loop or reach out to your local chamber if there's any way that you can donate or support to local Indigenous organizations, um, or even like a residential school survivor support fund, that kind of thing. So finally, and perhaps most importantly, regardless of whether your company observes the day as a statutory holiday, we always recommend investing in professional development for your leaders. This is not just a one-time learning moment. The impacts of residential schools and intergenerational trauma can show up in the workplace too, and it's something that's a real issue. So supervisors, managers, and leaders in training need to understand how to approach these conversations and situations with like really high cultural sensitivity. There are a lot of free online courses and information available, and other training opportunities that can help. And setting the standard and making professional development part of your approach really shows your team that you take reconciliation seriously and that you're preparing your team to handle those tough but important realities with respect. Our team, a number of people on our team have taken the Coursera course, Indigenous Canada, offered by the University of Alberta. It's free to take, and it's about 20 hours of go at your own pace learning. It's all digital, and it explores the complex experience that Indigenous people face from historical and modern perspective. So we highly recommend this to our clients. So if you're observing National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, or if you and your team interact with Indigenous people through your community or through your workplace, anything like that. And so I always say like doing something is better than doing nothing. You're going to notice the difference, your team's going to notice the difference, and your community will notice the difference as well. So if your business decides to formally observe September 30th, here are some things and some ways that you can do to do it right. The first thing is communicate it early with staff. Let your staff know what you're doing, observing the day, and why you're doing it. And I think that's the key piece in the call to action. It's not just a day off, it's about learning and reflection. Be clear and consistent. So if it is a paid day off, say so. If it's a modified workday, be upfront about those expectations. Document it in your internal list of paid holidays or floating days. Lead the conversation and again, sort of model that respect and transparency with your team. So, and model the behavior. So if you're asking your team to participate in Orange Shirt Day, you should wear one too. If you're asking them to participate in a local event, you should go too. And it's about really just speaking from the heart and doing whatever you choose to do, but making it sort of intentional and respectful is going to be the most important part to your team. So you don't need a corporate policy or a PR department to get this piece right. You just need to be honest and respectful and clear with your team. So taking action on National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, even in a really small way, sends a powerful message that you care about the people you work with, the communities that you serve. It's not about being perfect, it's about showing up with purpose. So we have some resources here on this slide, and they'll be sent out in the newsletter as well and linked. So the Truth and Reconciliation Commission calls to action. I would pay special attention to number 80, which is in relation to National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. There's the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation website. orangeshirtday.org is a great resource. And then again, just mentioning again the Indigenous Canada course. So the website you'd go to is Coursera, but it's offered through the University of Alberta. You get a certificate at the end saying you completed the Indigenous Canada course. Great. So thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you're leaving with some practical tools and a deeper understanding for how to support your team when it comes to the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, especially around time off and building those respectful policies. If you'd like to continue the conversation, always reach out to us at hello@hradvantageservices.com or visit our website at hradvantageservices.com. And of course, we'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. Both Mackenzie and I are always active on there and happy to share resources, updates, and ideas. Thanks again for spending your time with us today. We really appreciate it, and we hope you enjoyed this edition of Industry Innovators.